Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the 1998 sci-fi horror cult classic, The Faculty.
So what happens when the people you're supposed to trust, your teachers, aren't human anymore? Well, it all starts at Harrington High. A seemingly normal day is about to just completely spiral into a nightmare. And our story really kicks off right on the football field, after a super intense practice leaves a very, very angry Coach Willis all by himself.
So, here we go. A sinister takeover. And it just begins with this one single bizarre encounter. As the coach is just letting off steam, he's suddenly confronted by this shadowy figure. He's like, "What do you want?" But no answer. Instead, they just lunge at him. And believe me, this one moment, it's the tiny spark that's going to ignite a horrifying transformation across the entire school.
Okay, so that very same night, the takeover kicks into high gear. The principal, Miss Drake, she's working late in her office when Coach Willis shows up and corners her. Now, he's weirdly calm. He's even complimenting her. And then, bam, he brutally stabs her hand with a pencil. She somehow manages to get away and lock him in. But just as she's about to escape, she gets ambushed at the door by the drama teacher, Mrs. Olson, who, well, she finishes the job with a pair of scissors. It's brutal.
So the next morning, you'd think things would be crazy, right? Nope, it's pretty much business as usual. Almost. The teachers, they're all there, but something is seriously off. They're cold, kind of detached, and they all have this one really bizarre new habit. They are constantly drinking water. I mean, it's this desperate, unquenchable thirst.
All right, let's talk about our heroes. Our unlikely heroes. 6 students, 6 classic stereotypes, and they're about to uncover one terrifying secret. So who's actually going to notice this creeping dread? Well, it's the students, of course. And they're a classic Breakfast Club lineup of high school archetypes, Each totally in their own little world with absolutely no idea that sheer terror is about to bring them all together.
And here's what's so great about this setup. These totally clashing personalities, they are the school's only hope. You've got Casey, the nerdy photographer who gets picked on. Delilah, the queen bee and ambitious editor. Stan, the jock who wants out. Zeke, the super smart rebel drug dealer. Stokely, the goth sci-fi expert. And Marybeth, the sweet, innocent new girl. I mean, they could not be more different. And what the movie does so well is it uses these familiar tropes as a starting point and then just forces them to break out of those boxes if they want to survive.
Okay, so it all really kicks off with this strange little discovery on the football field. Our first big clue comes from Casey. Remember him, the photographer, the school's resident punching bag? Well, while he's trying to dodge some bullies, he literally stumbles upon this bizarre, dried-up little creature. It looks like, I don't know, some kind of fossilized alien larva.
So naturally, Casey does what any curious kid would do. He takes this thing to his science teacher, Mr. Furlong, and that's when this experiment goes so wrong. First, they discover it, then, in the lab, just a single drop of water hits it, and it proves the creature is aquatic. But here's the crazy part. Once they pop it in a fish tank, it doesn't just spring to life, it immediately splits into 2 and attacks Mr. Furlong. Right then and there, they know this thing is intelligent and terrifyingly hostile.
A little later, Casey and Delilah are snooping around for a school paper story, and they end up hiding in a closet in the faculty lounge. And wow, they get a front row seat to the horror show. They see the teachers chugging water like crazy. Then they watch in total shock as Coach Willis and Mrs. Olson hold down the school nurse and force a parasite from the coach's mouth right into her ear. But the real kicker? The real no-way moment? Principal Drake, the woman they thought was murdered, just casually walks in, looking perfectly fine. They realize they are totally on their own.
So they barely escape with their lives, and they rush to tell the others what they saw. Of course, Stan is skeptical, but Stokely, the goth who lives and breathes science fiction, she gets it immediately. She's the one who connects all the dots. She says, they're aliens. They're parasites that take over the human mind. She compares it to stories like Puppet Masters and figures out they're dealing with a parasitic species that controls its hosts. It's kind of a perfect metaphor for the pressures of high school, right? Conformity or die.
Okay, so now they're fighting the parasite. The whole dynamic shifts. They go from being the hunted to the hunters. Now that they have this terrifying theory, the group knows they need 2 things, proof and a weapon. So where do they go first? Back to the science lab to check on that creature Casey found.
But guess what? The specimen is gone, and just as that sinks in, an infected Mr. Furlong bursts in and locks them in the lab. This is not their teacher anymore. He is a monster with completely inhuman strength, just tossing them around like rag dolls. At one point, his fingers get chopped off and they're literally writhing on the floor like worms. Yeah, the takeover is very, very real.
And right in the middle of all this chaos, they have their big breakthrough. As Furlong is on the attack, Zeke, our resident drug dealer, desperately grabs a pen full of his homemade drug, he calls it scat, and stabs Furlong right in the eye. And the effect is insane. It's immediate. Furlong's body just dehydrates and collapses. They've just discovered the alien's Achilles heel. What is it? Caffeine. The parasite thrives on water, and this drug, which is basically a diuretic, is their only known weakness.
Okay, great, they have a weapon. But now a new, absolutely terrifying thought starts to creep in. It's a classic hallmark of these invasion stories, right? The aliens have been picking people off one by one. So, how can they be sure one of them isn't already a host? The paranoia just skyrockets, and it starts to tear the group apart. Who can you possibly trust? So, to find out who's who, Zeke comes up with this twisted loyalty test. The plan is simple. Everyone has to take a dose of his drug, scat. For a human, you just get high. But for an alien, the dehydration will kill it. So one by one, Casey, Stan, Stokely, Marybeth, they all pass. They're human. But then comes the betrayal. When it's Delilah's turn, she fakes taking it and reveals she's been one of them all along. She completely trashes the lab and escapes, confirming their absolute worst fear. The enemy is now officially inside the group. All right, we're heading into the final showdown. To save the world, they've got to kill the queen. They realize they can't possibly fight the entire school. It's just impossible. So Stokely comes through with another classic sci-fi theory. These things have to operate as a hive mind. So if they can just find and kill the queen alien, the rest of the hive should die right along with her. It's a long shot, but it's their only chance.
So the big question is the principal the queen? I mean, their logic makes sense, right? The queen would be the one in charge, and at a high school, who's in charge? The principal. So they decide their target has to be Miss Drake. After all, she was one of the first people they knew was taken over.
And it all leads to this chaotic showdown in the gym during the big football game. And guess what? They actually succeed. They manage to corner and kill Principal Drake. It feels like a victory for about 2 seconds. Because when they look out at the football field, nothing has changed. Coach Willis is still infected. And even worse, he's just infected Stan. They killed the wrong person.
You can just imagine how they feel. They're devastated, they're almost out of their weapon, and the remaining students just retreat back to the gym. And that is when the real queen finally makes her move. As Stokely is losing all hope, Marybeth, you remember her, the sweet, innocent new girl, she starts to transform. The real threat was hiding in plain sight the entire time.
So yeah, Marybeth was the queen all along. She explains everything. Her home planet was dying, it was running out of water, so she came here to conquer a new, water-rich world, Earth. That innocent girl routine, it was all just a disguise for a massive, truly terrifying insect-like alien creature.
What follows is this desperate chase that leads them right back into the gym. And this is where Casey, our nerdy hero, has his moment. Thinking fast, he manages to lure the giant queen right into the path of the school's huge, automatic retractable bleachers. He slams the button, and the massive structure starts to close, trapping the monster inside. So, she's trapped, but she is definitely not dead. As the queen is thrashing around, Casey looks down and realizes he has just one dose of Scott left. Just one. This is it. He has exactly one shot to take her down and save literally everyone. He takes a breath, lunges forward, and plunges that pen deep into her eye.
And it works. The queen dissolves, and just like that, the hive mind is broken. Poof! Everyone who is infected snaps right back to normal, with zero memory of what happened. So we flash forward 1 month later, and it's a whole new beginning. The world is completely changed for our heroes. That whole crisis forced them to shed their old high school labels. Casey, the nerd, he's a town hero now, and he's dating Delilah. Stan and Stokely are a couple, and Zeke, the rebel drug dealer, has actually joined the football team. So the faculty wraps everything up with a pretty happy ending, but, it leaves us with this really chilling question. The aliens, they hid in plain sight just by acting a little bit off. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the people all around you started changing in these subtle little ways, would you actually recognize the signs of an invasion? Or would you just chalk it up to them having a bad day? Something to think about.